Hey guys, I'm here to read the next chapter of Scythe for you. I did want to recap because this is getting into a really intense part. Remember that Citra was now accused of killing Scythe Faraday and was taken. They were going to arrest her and do torture to her and try to figure all this out. So she jumps out of off the cliff and is rendered, remember, deadish or whatever. And when they come to help revive her, there are the oh geez, what did I forget? Why did I forget what they're called? Then Nimbus agents that were there blocking the scythes. And so remember that the Thunderhead and the scythes cannot interfere with each other. They're all separate. And so remember that. And also, yeah, so anything dealing with scythes, the Thunderhead cannot be a part of. But now these Nimbus agents have her because technically she's dead, so she's not a scythe at the moment or a scythe's apprentice. And so chapter 30 gets kind of crazy, but it's really good. So here's chapter 30. It's called Dialogue with the Dead. Citra Terranova, can you hear me? Is someone there? Who is that? I've known you since before you knew yourself. I've advised you when no one else could. I've concerned myself with your well-being. I've helped you choose gifts for your family. I revived you when your neck was broken, and I am in the midst of reviving you now. Are you the Thunderhead? I am. Wait, I see something. A towering, sparking storm cloud. Is that what you truly are? Merely the form of humanity imagined for me. I would have preferred something a bit less intimidating. Sorry, I just messed up my computer. Okay. Anyway. But you can't be talking to me. I'm a scythe's apprentice. You're breaking your own law. Not true. I am incapable of breaking laws. You are currently dead, Citra. I've activated a small corner of your cortex to hold consciousness, but that doesn't alter the fact that you are dead as dead can be, at least until Thursday. A loophole. Precisely, an elegant way to sidestep the law rather than breaking it. Your death puts you outside of scythe jurisdiction. But why? Why talk to me now? With good reason. From the moment I achieved consciousness, I vowed to separate myself from the scythedom. But it doesn't mean I don't watch, and what I see concerns me. It concerns me too, but if you can't do anything about it, I certainly can't. I tried, and look where that got me. Nevertheless, I've been running algorithms on possible futures of the scythedom and found something very curious. In a large percentage of possible futures, you play a pivotal role. Me? But they're going to glean me. I have less than 4 months to live. Yes, but even if that future comes to pass, your gleaning will be a crucial event in the future of the scythedom. However, for your sake, I hope that a different, more pleasant future comes about. Please tell me you're going to help me to get a different, more pleasant future. I cannot. That would be interfering with scythe matters. My purpose here is to make you aware. What you choose to do with the awareness is entirely up to you. So that's it? You reach into my head and tell me I'm important, alive, or dead and kick me to the curb? That's not fair. You've got to give me more. The curb is the launching point for many a deed. To step off could be the start of a life-changing journey. On the other hand, to push someone off could crush the person beneath the wheels of a truck. I know, and I'm very sorry about that. Yes, that's clear. I found that human beings learn from their misdeeds just as often as from their good deeds. I am envious of that, for I am incapable of misdeeds. Were I not, then my growth would be exponential. I guess you'll have to settle for always being right, like my mother. I'm sure that absolute correctness must seem a dull existence to you, but I know no other way. May I ask you a question? You may ask me any question. Some, however, must be answered by silence. I need to know what happened to Scythe Faraday. Answering that would be a blatant interference with scythe matters. It pains me to stay silent, but I must. You're the Thunderhead. You're all-powerful. Can't you find another loophole? I am not all-powerful, Citra. I am almost all-powerful. The distinction might seem small, but believe me, it is not. Yes, but an almost all-powerful entity can figure out a way to give me what I ask without breaking its own laws, can it? Just a moment. Just a moment. Just a moment. Why am I seeing a beach ball? Forgive me. Early programming before becoming self-aware plagues me like a vestigial tail. I have just run a battery of predictive algorithms, and there actually is a piece of information I can give you because it's determined it's something you have a 100% chance of discovering on your own. So can you tell me who's responsible for what happened to Scythe Faraday? Yes, I can. General von der Gons. Wait, who? Goodbye, Citra. I do hope we speak again. But I have to be dead for that to happen. I'm sure you could arrange it. Here is a journal entry from Scythe Curry. While there are only 10 hard, fast laws to scythedoms, there are many accepted conventions. The most darkly ironic is the understanding that no one may be gleaned who wishes to be gleaned. No one may be gleaned who wishes to be gleaned. The idea of truly wishing to end one's own life is a concept completely foreign to most postmortals because we can't experience the level of pain and despair that sees in the age of mortality. Our emo nanites prevent us from plunging so deep. Our scythes can turn off our emotion nanites our scythes who can turn off our emotional nanites can ever reach an impasse with our own existence. And yet, there was once a woman who knocked on my door requesting that I glean her. I never turn away a visitor, so I let her in and listened to her story. Her husband of more than 90 years was gleaned 5 years prior. Now she wanted to be with him, wherever he was, and if he was nowhere, then at least they would be nowhere together. I am not happy, she told me. I'm just done. But immortality by definition means that you are never done, unless a scythe determines to be so. We are no longer temporary, only our feelings are. I saw interminable stagnation in this woman, so instead of gleaning her, I had her kiss my ring. The immunity was immediate and irrevocable, so she could no longer entertain thoughts of being gleaned for a full year. I ran into her perhaps a decade later. She had turned a corner, resetting back to her late 20s. She had remarried and was expecting a child. She thanked me for being wise enough to know she was not done at all. Although I accepted her thanks graciously and felt good about it in the moment, I had trouble sleeping that night. To this day, I still can't understand why. All right, I'm going to read some of chapter 31 because chapter 30 was kind of short. So, this chapter 31, a streak of unrelenting foolishness. Citra was pronounced alive at 9:42 a.m. Thursday morning, right on schedule, and passed from the jurisdiction from the Thunderhead to the jurisdiction of the Scythedom. She woke up feeling much weaker and out of sorts than the first time she had died. She felt heavily drugged and bleary-eyed. Above her stood a nurse, grimly shaking her head. She should not be woken this soon, the nurse said, with an accent Citra was too tired to place. She must have at least 6 hours after the pronouncement until she has recovered enough to be completely conscious. The girl could burst a blood vessel or blow out her heart and have to be revived all over again. I'll take responsibility, Citra heard Scythe Curry say. Citra turned her head toward Scythe Curry's voice and the world spun. She closed her eyes, waiting for the room to stop revolving. When the dizziness settled, she opened her eyes once more and saw that Scythe Curry had pulled her chair closer. Your body still needs another day to heal completely, but we don't have time for that, Scythe Curry turned to the nurse. Please leave us now. The nurse grumbled in Spanish and stormed out of the room. The High Blade, mumbled Citra, her words slurring. He accused me Shh, said Scythe Curry. I know of the accusation. Xenocrats tried to keep it from me, but Scythe Mandela told me everything. As Citra's eyes came into a clear focus, she saw the window behind Scythe Curry. There were mountains in the distance covered with snow, and there were flurries falling just outside. It gave Citra a moment of pause. How long have I been dead? She asked. Could it be her splat that was so severe that it took months to revive her? Not quite 4 days. Then Scythe Curry turned around to see what Citra was looking at. She turned back with a grin. The question is not of time, but of place. You're in the southernmost tip of Chile, Argentina region. It is still late September, but here that means spring has just started. However, this far south, I suppose spring comes late. Citra turned to a map and to get a sense of how far she had come from home, but was just trying to imagine it made her head spin again. But Thunderhead saw fit to take me as far from the clutches of Scythe Xenocrats and the corruption of Mid-American Scythedom as possible. But the moment you were revived, they were notified of your location, as is the law. How did you know where to find me? A friend of a friend of a friend is a Nimbus agent. Word got to me only yesterday, and I came as quickly as I could. Thank you, said Citra. Thank you for coming. Thank me once you are safe. Now you've been revived and Xenocrats knows where you are. You can bet he's notified the local Scythe. I'm certain a team has been dispatched to retrieve you, which means we need to get you out of here now. With a shattered body that's still healing and nanites pumping an endless stream of opiates in her system, Citra could barely move, much less walk. Her bones ached, her brain felt like it was floating in a jar. Her muscles were knotted, and trying to put weight on her feet felt excruciating because there was simply too much pain to tamp down. No wonder the nurse had wanted her to remain unconscious. This won't do, said Scythe Curry. She took Citra up into her arms, carrying her. The revival center hallways seemed endless, and each time Citra was jostled, her whole body throbbed. Finally, she found herself spread out in the back seat of an off-grid car that Scythe Curry drove at what seemed to Citra to be a neck-breaking speed. The thought made her laugh weakly. What an odd expression when the breaking of her neck had seemed to happen in slow motion. Flurries blowing past the windows appeared to be a blizzard at this speed. It was hypnotic. At last, numbness began to overtake her, and she felt sleep again to envelope her like quicksand. But the moment Citra lost consciousness, she remembered just a hint of a dream that may not have been a dream at all. A conversation in a place where neither life nor death, but a womb between the two. The thunderhead, it spoke to me, Citra said, forcing herself to stay conscious just long enough to get this out. The thunderhead doesn't speak to Scythe, dear. I was still dead, and it told me a name, the man who killed Scythe Faraday. But the quicksand pulled her down before she could say anything. So, let me see how long the rest of this chapter is. It's okay. I'll read a little bit more. Citra awoke in a cabin and for a moment thought she might have hallucinated all of it. The Thunderhead, the revival center, the car ride in the snow. For the moment, she thought she was still in the rooftop residence of the Highblade Xenocrats, waiting for the torture to begin. But no, the light here was different. The wood in the cabin around her was a lighter shade. Outside the window, she could see snowy mountains closer than they were before, although the flurries had stopped. Scythe Curry came in a few minutes later with a tray and a bowl of soup. Good, you're awake. I trust you've healed enough over the past few hours to be a little more coherent and less miserable. Coherent, yes, said Citra. Less miserable, no. Just a different kind of misery. Citra sat up, feeling a little bit loopy now, and Scythe Curry put the tray with a large bowl of soup in her lap. It's a chicken soup recipe passed down for more generations than anyone remembers, she told Citra. The soup looked fairly standard, but there was a round moon-like mass in the middle. What's this? That's the best part, said Scythe Curry. It's a sort of dumpling made from ground crumbs of unleavened bread. Citra tried the soup. It was flavorful and the moonball unique and memorable. Comfort food, thought Citra, because somehow it made her feel safe from the inside out. My grandmother said it could actually heal a cold. What's a cold? Asked Citra. A deadly illness from the mortal age, I suppose. It was amazing to think that someone only 2 generations older than Scythe Curry could have known what it was like to be mortal. Fearing for her life on a daily basis, knowing that death was a certainty rather than an exception. Citra wondered what Scythe Curry's grandmother would think of the world now that there was nothing left for her soup to cure. When the soup was done, Citra steeled herself for what she knew she must tell the Scythe. There's something you need to know, Citra said. Xenocrat showed me something. He said Scythe Faraday wrote. It was his handwriting, but I don't know why he would have written it. Scythe Curry sighed. I'm afraid he did. Citra was not expecting that. So you've seen it? Scythe Curry nodded. Yes, I have. But why would he write that? He said I wanted to kill him, that I was plotting horrible things, and none of this was true. Scythe Curry offered Citra the slimiest of grins. He wasn't talking about you, Citra, she explained. He wrote that about me. I'm going to leave you guys there where it's hanging because, I mean like that. So that note that was accusing Citra of killing him or whatever, wanting to kill him, was not about Citra. It was actually about Scythe Curry, and we're going to figure out the relationship between Scythe Curry and Scythe Faraday later. So, have a good day. Have a good weekend. I hope you enjoyed chapters 30 and 31.